This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it in
Stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
No education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez here on the Michigan Talk Network. 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. If you'd like to join the conversation today, 7 minutes after the top of the hour. And so good to be here. So good to have you along as well. And my apologies. I probably should apologize once an hour. I've been fighting this miserable, whatever, cold, sinus infection, whatever it is, for the past going on week 2. So if you're going through it, you're not going through it alone. A lot of people I know here at work, the the petri dish for all things virus, I think, happens at work. But but I'll make it, but with your help, of course. Would love to hear from you today. Police in Syracuse are searching a 160-acre cemetery for suspects believed to be involved in a shooting that left a 15-year-old dead and another teen injured. Authorities say police officers responded to Hope Avenue Wednesday night after receiving a call of shots fired. They began following a vehicle. They say suspects fired at them several times. The suspects then ditched their vehicle and ran into Oakwood Cemetery. Helicopter and K-9 units were then brought in to search. At a house on Hope Avenue, officers found a 15-year-old boy dead on the rear porch and a 17-year-old who'd been shot in the leg. He was treated at a hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Nearby Syracuse University was briefly put on lockdown as a precaution. Normal activities have resumed since, and if we get an update on that, we will pass it along. A survey finds that China has passed the United States in its number of billionaires. A survey has found China has passed the United States in the number of billionaires, driven by the rise of fortunes in information technology and manufacturing, stealing patents, and, of course, stealing IT. The Huron report, which follows China's wealthy, says the number of mainland Chinese billionaires rose by 242 this year to 596. It said that surpassed the 537 the company found in the United States. Number one on this year's list is Wang Jinlin, former chairman of Wanda Group, which operates hotels, shopping malls, and cinemas, at $34.4 billion. Number two was Jack Ma, founder of e-commerce giant Alibaba, at $22.7 billion. Just a couple bucks floating around China. The government says it will announce this morning whether there will be a cost of living adjustment for Social Security recipients, disabled veterans, and federal retirees. Now, by law, the adjustment, or COLA, is based on a government measure of inflation, the Consumer Price Index, but it's being pulled down because of lower gas prices. Inflation has been so low that the economists say there is little chance it will result in a benefit increase. Activists occupying Baltimore City Hall say they won't leave until their demands are met. Protesters are opposed to the appointment of the city's interim police commissioner, Kevin Davis, as permanent commissioner. The demonstrators say they want changes to police tactics and significant investment in education and social services. The protesters have been chanting, "We will fight for Freddie Gray." Gray died in police custody in April after sustaining a severe spine injury. Skeletal remains identified as homeless Western Michigan man Skeletal remains found along a western Michigan roadway have been identified as belonging to a homeless man police say was known to sleep beneath freeway overpasses and in other remote areas. The Kent County Sheriff's Office says an autopsy has revealed that 37-year-old Walter Garcia Lopez died a natural death due to a chronic ethanol abuse. A tip led police to remains Sunday in Gaines Township, south of Grand Rapids. Garcia Lopez was identified through dental records and his body tattoos. Authorities earlier had said a gas station customer rewards card was found at the scene. Tesla Motors is leapfrogging its competitors with an autopilot system that lets its cars change lanes by themselves. Tesla unveiled the system in a blog post Wednesday. It will be added to some Model S sedans and Model X SUVs through a software upgrade, like other semi-autonomous systems from Mercedes, Audi, and Volvo. Tesla's system automatically keeps the car within its lane and maintains a certain distance from the car in front. It can find a parking spot and parallel park itself. Also uses cameras and sensors to warn drivers about potential side obstructions. Frankly, I don't think I want the car driving itself. I'm kind of a control freak that way. But ask my girlfriend; she'll tell you. No, look, it's a nice feature. I'm sure autopilot on a vehicle is a nice idea, but responsibility will ultimately come down to the driver. Should something happen, should something go wrong, the driver then will just kind of pass on responsibility to Tesla Motors. Lawsuit ensues. Autopilot, bad idea all the way around. Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton has planned trips to mines in South Dakota and Michigan as his administration prepares for a major decision on whether to advance copper and nickel mining on the Iron Range. Dayton spokesman Matt Swenson told the Associated Press on Wednesday that the governor will tour the Gilt Edge mine in western South Dakota on October 27th and the Eagle mine in northern Michigan on October 30th. Dayton's administration is evaluating environmental issues surrounding the proposed Polymet mine in northern Minnesota. The Polymet project has already caused divisions in Dayton's Democratic Party between those who see it as a job potential, and those who worry about environmental damage. Having been in the UP last weekend, saw lots of homemade signs for no mining. Now it all kind of makes sense. I apologize for not being as in touch with that situation, but now it all kind of makes sense. Again, lots of people in the UP opposed to that mining possibility. So 14 minutes after the top of the hour, I'm Duran Martinez, muddling through this Thursday morning with you. In for Steve Gruber, 888-900-9966. If you'd like to join the conversation with us today. Lots more coming your way. Fighting a cold and fighting a cough as we speak. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez on the Michigan Talk Network.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense. Filling in for Steve Gruber, here is Duran Martinez.
Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez. Good to have you along here on this Thursday. Man, oh man, busy week. New directives coming from the Democrat debate. I'm sure the media got its orders and are running with that right now. Seton Motley, our guest here, the president of Less Government, consultant, and the president of Less Government, joining us on the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well. I actually, believe this or not, I watched the debate the other night with the Sanders. The Sanders-Clinton debate with the other people throwing their 2 cents in. But it would seem, Seton, that We now have the directive from Senator Bernie Sanders that the American public doesn't give a damn about the emails.
Well,
so is that our?
The Democrat base doesn't give a damn about the emails, and this is a Democrat primary. So, does anyone get the sense, for people who watched the original Star Trek, that the other three guys on the stage would have been the ones in the red shirts that get sent off over the hill and end up dead before the end of the episode? But yeah, look, that was a good line for him in the short term at the moment, but long term it was stupid. He's one of those old school politicians that will not go negative, even if the negativity is unbelievably justified and reasonable. And he threw that away because he throws everything negative away against his opponents. And combine that with what do Bernie Sanders and Kevin McCarthy have in common? They don't think the Benghazi committee is about the Benghazi deaths. I think it's about politics.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I mean, and now of course we have another rhino come out, Richard Hanna, Republican. I don't know if you saw that, where he said the Benghazi committee is exclusively about going after Clinton. So when we conservatives say we're tired of establishment Republicans, and then stuff like this happens, I'm shocked that other establishment people continue to look at us with disdain for being tired of them.
Well, it was funny. Speaking with Seton Motley here on the Steve Gruber Show, in conversation with a friend, coworker, the other day, they were talking about how the Republican Party, and I'm paraphrasing here, laden with racism. I'm like, wait a minute. Do we not have the most diverse group running for office? And I looked closely at the Democratic debate, going, I see nothing there.
Well, it goes from old and white to elderly and white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, they have a woman and a bunch of old, an old woman and a bunch of old white guys, and again, I think this is a microcosm, this Democrat presidential primary field, of what Obama and his administration have done to the Democrat Party. They've lost over 1,000 seats, the Democrat Party, nationwide at state and local levels, plus the federal level, since he took office. So the next generation of Democrats have been driven out of politics by this president. So you're going to see a lot of this. I mean, and of course, who are the saviors, the potential saviors to come in and save the day? Joe Biden, over 70. John Kerry, I don't know how old he is, late 60s, early 70s. And then they're bringing back the old war horse Al Gore, potentially. Again, in his late 60s, early 70s, I don't know. So, yeah, this is an old party. It's the party of the rich, which is interesting because they've managed to keep this facade of we're the party of the little person. But it's a party of the rich bankers and the rich Hollywood types. And the image that they've tried to foster for decades is now totally out the window.
It is. And again, I harbor no ill will or feelings towards anybody who has made a good, honest, wealthy amount of money in their life. If you've made a good income in your life through hard work, God bless you. I'm not going to try and take that away from you. But when you have someone so wealthy like Hillary Clinton saying, we need to go after the rich.
Well, and not only that, but the difference between her and a Bill Gates is striking, because how many ancillary millionaires has Bill Gates created with his products? I mean, it's exponential.
Sure.
Hillary Clinton is rich based on crony socialist payments and down payments as Secretary of State and as a potential future president. I mean, why did their daughter get $600,000 a year for a part-time gig at MSNBC? Because it was trying to get in good graces for the next president of the United States, ostensibly. So there's ways to get rich that are admirable and emulatable and go for it. And then there's this.
Absolutely. Seton Motley is joining us here on the Steve Gruber Show. And essentially, as I watched the debate, there was one person that stood out to me as someone that probably didn't belong on that stage, and that was Webb. I didn't get it.
It was Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the others.
Exactly. I didn't understand his Jim Webb on there. It was almost like watching the Admiral all over again.
I say this, and I'm not the only one who said this. If it comes down to Webb versus Bush, I'm voting Webb. Webb is, I don't know the guy. I was born in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for much of my life. I'm guessing he's running just to remind the Democrat Party what they used to be and how far they've strayed, is my guess. He's an old school Kennedy-type Republican. Democrat. The left claims to love, but in reality, Bill Clinton, right now, as he ran in the 90s, would be ostracized by the Democrat base. So I think he's running as sort of a visual aid of what the party once was and what he hopes it is again.
Well, it was actually, for all intents and purposes, it was actually kind of refreshing to see him.
Yes, no, it was nice. I loved my favorite line was his enemy's line. My number one enemy is the guy who threw a grenade at me and wounded me, but he's no longer with us.
Absolutely. Seton Motley, appreciate you joining us here on the Steve Gruber Show, 25 minutes after the top of the hour. Thank you, sir.
The Steve Gruber Show, American Values with Midwestern Common Sense. Filling in for Steve Gruber, here's Duran Martinez.
Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez, 27 minutes away from the top of the hour. Firearms, handguns. You carry? I carry. No, there's no question. I went through my training. I'm a lifelong firearms owner, hunter, and an enthusiast, if you will. A year ago, took the class. My girlfriend and I both have taken the class. Both have CPLs, and it's as the statement goes, not only to invoke our Second Amendment rights, but personal protection. Okay, it's a personal choice. Rick Ector, urban firearms instructor in the most violent city in the world, Detroit, Michigan, joins us for talk about personal protection, firearm safety, concealed pistol licenses, and the like. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Not at all. I get, I'm on the Facebook, as I like to refer to it, the Facebook. Right. And I get the 24-hour major crime summary report from the Detroit Police Department.
Okay.
And almost daily, I am seeing a crime that involves firearms, and unfortunately, at some time, a fatality involved with that. And I'll pretty much guess that I would say 99.9% of those firearms are not licensed, and or is someone carrying a CPL.
Yeah, I would say that would be the case. Generally speaking, when you're talking about CPL holders, not only in the state of Michigan, but in other states as well. They've done studies, and persons who have the ability to get concealed pistol licenses are usually, very law-abiding and usually boil down to being even more law-abiding statistically than law enforcement officers. So, yeah, I would say that your assertion was very astute.
Now, being a CPL holder, this may or may not sound kind of strange to you, but every day I get into my vehicle, I go through a mental check of what's going to happen should I get pulled over for a moving violation. Aside from rolling my window down, my hands do not leave the steering wheel of the vehicle. And I go through this check, and I don't know why I do it, but I go through exactly what I'm going to say. I have a CPL. I have a firearm on me. It is located here, and I am not going to make any moves until you say it's okay. Am I crazy?
That's a good SOP, but I think I obsessed over it for a spell until I had my first traffic stop, and it was really interesting, and when it happens, you might feel a little tense because there's a firearm involved, but it's gone smoothly,
Sure.
nothing really to worry about. My thing is, before I run out the door, I do a mental check, and I'm going gun, wallet, key, cell phone, making sure that I have those items on me, before I walk out the door. But traffic stops, that's relatively smooth.
And I'm glad you've helped me with that because, for the longest time as a CPL holder, they say that you go through this process. You go through this process of thinking everybody knows I'm carrying. You have this, but then you realize you can detect who is carrying.
Oh, yeah. There are subtle cues that you can look at people because you're actually walking the walk and you're going through the same thing. And it's things such as, a person, whose attire or maybe their shirt is, pulled out of their pants or, you're looking at different sections of the body for bulges, and some people don't do a good job of concealing as others. But, I don't really obsess over whether someone can determine if I'm carrying or not because, some people view open carry as, controversial, but I routinely open carry as well, so I don't really worry about whether someone knows I'm carrying or not.
No, well, like I said, in time, a lot of that I think goes away.
Right.
But for people who are looking at it as a first time, these are some of the common things that I have seen and I have read about. Look, I am a longtime firearms owner. I've hunted my whole life and everything else. And safety is always an issue. And I think that we tend to go above and beyond a lot of times. A lot of us do anyway. The safety checks prior to even leaving.
Yeah, I guess when you do something like carry a firearm, there's a transition. There's a phase that you go through. I guess one could obsess over whether someone could see whether they're carrying or not, and the things that you think about, the scenarios, traffic stop. When you first have your first law enforcement officer that pulls you over. When you use your first public restroom, when you greet people with a hug. I tell people it's truly an alternative lifestyle. It will change how you do a lot of things. You can't leave your gun in the car, when you're using valet parking. It changes everything. But once you've done it for a while and you've gone through all of the things that, you used to do before you started carrying guns, it could radically change the way you do everything.
Absolutely. Rick Ector is our guest here, urban firearms instructor. Rick, for someone who is contemplating carrying for the first time, may not have a lot of experience with a firearm, and right now I can hear people screaming at the radio. What do you suggest they do to look for a firearms instructor such as yourself?
Well, I would say this, particularly, in light of, one incident that happened within the last week, I would say that do your research, do your homework. Firearms instructors, they're not identical. Some have different strengths in different areas than others. I would say seek out to find the best firearms instructor that you can find. There's a variety of ways of doing that. If you happen to know someone who went through the training, you could ask for their feedback and understand what they thought from the instructors they had. You might want to take a look at their reputation, how long they've been teaching, who does the legal section of their concealed pistol license class. Is it actually an attorney or is it some other person? How many credentials they have with regards to certifications through the organization that holds their certifications. There's a variety of things that you can assess. I would say do not make your determination based solely on price because there's so many variables in play. You may not necessarily be comparing apples to apples.
All right, Rick Ector, appreciate your time here on the Steve Gruber Show. Did have a question for you, but we're not going to be able to get to it. But again, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Rick Ector joining us here, urban firearms instructor in Detroit, getting a few tips about firearm safety and carrying here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world. Filling in for Steve Gruber, here's Duran Martinez.
Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez. 15 minutes away from the top of the hour. Good to have you along. Chief Dan Roberts, FBI retired chief of police for the Franklin Bingham Farms Police Department, joining us right now. Michigan State Senate panel on Tuesday approved a gun bills that would allow concealed carry instead of open carry in schools, moving ahead despite concerns from education officials who fear the proposal will do little to shield students from possible violence. Chief, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Duran.
Good to have you here. Every time we bring up guns and schools in the same sentence, I can hear people screaming.
Yeah, on both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely, on both sides. And we just had conversation with a gentleman who is a CPL instructor in Detroit. Talked a little bit about CPL, and as I made mention, I myself have a CPL license. I carry, and we know the first line of defense as trained. Okay, as we are trained, that we are the first line of defense for protection of ourselves and others, not to chase people down in a Home Depot that might have shoplifted some stuff.
You're exactly right.
Okay, you have to make that decision. But when it comes to schools, it's a very, very touchy subject. We've seen such bad things happen in Colorado and Sandy Hook and the like. Okay, notwithstanding, there still has to be a line of defense. We cannot be held with our backsides in the wind.
Well, here's my thoughts on that, Duran. I think the legislature is missing the major point here, and that is that as years have passed, police departments' budgets have gotten cut, as have school districts, and one of the first things that has been cut is school liaison officers. If I were the legislature and really wanted to address the potential threats and violence at our schools, I would look at finding ways to fund additional police officers who are actually in the schools, and have them, that way you have a person who has a way more than an 8-hour CPL class in training sitting there and being able to identify what are real threats and what aren't. And, that's really the issue. There's no doubt in today's age, when you look at Sandy Hook and you look at the community college out in Oregon, there's no doubt that our schools are targets for whatever reason, whether it's a mental health issue or whatever it is, our schools are targets. I wish the legislature would look at ways of finding trained officers and putting them back in the schools when they used to be there years ago. Many of the high schools have them now, but below that, they don't have them for the most part. It's unfortunate.
Identifying a threat can be very difficult for an untrained eye.
No doubt.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, and you never know who is going to one day decide that they're going to just take whatever measures into their own hands and act upon it.
That's true, and that's why if you have someone who's in the school every day, an officer who's there, who knows the people that come and go, who knows who the delivery people are, who knows what kids belong there and what kids don't, as opposed to a CPL holder who probably drops off his kid and maybe goes to a play or some sporting event a couple of times a year and, may not know everybody involved in the school. My thought is I'd love to see more armed, trained people inside the schools that are police officers. I worry that should there be, some side of incident, like a Sandy Hook incident at a school, and we have a CPL holder in there who tries to take action, the police are going to arrive and not know who he or she is, and that person may get shot. The CPL holder may get shot by police because they don't know who that person is. And basically the police officers have been trained now since Sandy Hook and since all these school shootings to run to the sound of the gun and try and find out where the shooter is and negate that shooter as best as possible right away. And if they see a person standing there with a gun in their hand in a school and they don't recognize that person as being in uniform, it could create some very tense situations for both the CPL holder as well as the police. And
I agree. I agree with that completely. And the psychological effect of someone in uniform, which, God, I hate to even the fact that we're even having this conversation.
Right. Terrible.
But it really does something to the mindset of the criminal intent.
I agree with you. And look, there's no doubt that the CPL holders have their place. That is great. I mean, gun sales have gone through the roof over the years. I think, what is the FBI? I used to run their program for the FBI when I was in Washington, and they did 24 million gun checks a year, and every year it went up by a couple of million. And so, by and large, CPL holders and lawful gun owners are not the problem. The problem is the mental health issues that are associated with these people that are conducting the mass shootings, such as the one at Sandy Hook and the recent one out in Oregon, which was just, all of those are just tragic events that, had we had a better mental health system in place that would have identified those individuals and flagged them in the gun check process, we might have been able to head off some of those shootings.
Chief Dan Roberts joins us here, FBI retired, and also the chief of police for the Franklin Bingham Farms Police Department. Chief, now I have just a minute left in the segment. I apologize, but now you have people like Rahm Emanuel in Chicago blaming law enforcement for crime.
Well, Chicago's one of those things that's bucking the trend. Most other places, crime has been down for the last few years. Chicago and Baltimore are two of the major cities that the crime is actually up. I think they had something on order of 60 homicides last week. Rahm Emanuel made his own changes when he came into office. He put in his own police superintendent there, took out the prior gentleman who was there, a man by the name of Jody Weiss, who was in charge. And when they made those changes, they also saw crime go up for the past 3 years there. So, there's things that need to be done, but you can't blame the police for all of these shootings. The police are the ones who are trying to stop them. There's some cultural issues at play there. For the FBI, I was assigned to Chicago for 11 years, and so I would know very well all the gang violence on the south and west sides. And
I bet you do.
It's a tough place.
Chief Dan Roberts, appreciate your time as always, and best of luck. Stay safe, sir.
Thanks, Duran.
Thank you so much. Love this job. 8 minutes away from the top of the hour, it's the Steve Gruber Show on the Michigan Talk Network. Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. I'm Duran Martinez. Going to go to the phones right now. LJ in Lansing. Welcome to the Steve Gruber Show. How are you, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Doing well. Doing well. How are you today?
Not too bad. Hey, the reason I called is you're forgetting to point out one major fact about this situation with these mentally unstable people running around killing people. The Democrats were the ones, along with the ACLU, back in the late 70s and early 80s, who were running around screaming about how badly these people were being treated by being kept in institutions where they were being kept away from weapons and other sharp objects that could hurt other people, and being controlled by staff and doctors who were there specifically trained to work with them. Now, I think that they should be made liable for these killings and whatnot, and be sued for, the damage and death that they have caused since then, because essentially they've put these people out on the street saying, oh, they can be mainstreamed and controlled outside of these institutions. And as we've all seen over the last several years, as usual, the Democrats were, and let's hear it in chorus, Wrong.
LJ, appreciate your call. That would fall under the guise of responsibility. So therefore, them not having any, you can't sue them. Is pretty much how I'm going to take that. But I appreciate your call.
Yeah, but they do have money, so that you can sue for.
Well, yeah, they have money, but they want to take everybody else's away and distribute it.
Well, they're just going to be distributing their money to the people that they've hurt.
Again, accountability. Not going to happen on their end. LJ, appreciate the call. It is just 3 minutes away from the top of the hour. Whole another hour coming your way. Appreciate your calls. 888-900-9966. I'm Duran Martinez. You can find the Steve Gruber Show on Facebook. Also, if you like, join me for 2 hours of outdoors radio weekends here on the Michigan Talk Network with Wild Michigan.